Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I had a whole bunch of people send me this article, and it's one of those things where if you said, Steve, complete this sentence. Something happened the other day, complete this sentence. Wisconsin Supreme Court suspends judge who blank. What did she do that got her suspended? The Wisconsin Supreme Court suspended a judge who did something. I don't know. Got arrested? Got busted drunk driving? Had some kind of weird freak out on the bench? No. Wisconsin Supreme Court suspends judge who left court to arrest a hospitalized defendant. I'm only laughing at the absurdity of it. Some people don't know what their job description is. And arresting somebody at a hospital is not the job of a judge. At least not in Michigan. Maybe it is in Wisconsin. I don't know. But then again, she did get in trouble. So this is from the Associated Press. Todd Richmond wrote it. The Wisconsin Supreme Court suspended a Dane County judge for a week for leaving court to try to arrest a hospitalized defendant herself and then getting into an exchange with another defendant seeking a trial delay. So two different incidents, and the exchange in court is part of it. But the going to the hospital to try to arrest somebody, the court, that is the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, agreed with the Judicial Conduct Review Panel's suspension recommendation for her, finding that she deserved more than a reprimand because she behaved impulsively and showed a lack of restraint. Oh? Ironically, at the hospital, they've got restraints. Maybe they should have put her in some. The suspension will begin June 26th. The court says, we believe that the recommended 7-day suspension is of sufficient length to impress upon her the necessity of patience, impartiality, and restraint in her work, and to demonstrate to the public the judiciary's dedication to promoting professionalism among its members. Oh, one justice who is a former Dane County judge did not participate in the case because she's doing the right thing by stepping aside. The suspension order noted that the judge in question has acknowledged the facts of the case and has accepted full responsibility. So keep in mind that anytime somebody's accused of something, the first question is, do they admit it or do they contest it? And so when somebody stands up and goes, yeah, I did it. Okay, we're not going to argue about the facts anymore. Now we're just going to argue about the results. And so that's an interesting one here because with these weird facts, there's always a possibility that she might say, I didn't do, what are you talking about? I never did that. So she has two attorneys, because two are better than one, I guess. They declined to comment. The Wisconsin Judicial Commission filed a misconduct complaint against the judge here in question in October, accusing her of failing to promote public confidence and judicial impartiality, failing to treat people professionally, and failing to perform her duties without bias. According to the complaint, she was presiding over a case in December of 2021, and the case involved operating while intoxicated, okay? The defendant didn't show up in court on the day the trial was set to begin. His attorney told the judge that the defendant had been admitted to a hospital. Now, here's the thing. If you've got a court date, and it's a date certain, as we say, and you don't show up, bad things can happen to you. So according to the complaint, the judge was presiding over an operating while intoxicated case in December of 2021. The defendant didn't show up in court on the day the trial was set to begin. His attorney told the judge that the defendant had been admitted to a hospital. So let's assume that those facts are true, which they very well could be. You're a judge, defendant doesn't show up, but his attorney's right there. Where's your client? Was admitted to the hospital today. Really? Okay, what we're going to have then is what's called a show cause hearing, where we're all going to come back in a couple of weeks, and you're going to have to prove to the court there's a good reason that your client wasn't here. So obviously, give you an example, let's suppose they were driving to court and got in a car accident, and they're in a coma right now. Well, you're not going to drag them into court for a trial. They're going to go to the hospital. But if somebody's playing games here and decided to check into the hospital and claim that I'm having some kind of mental freak out, I need to be observed for a few weeks, well, then maybe that might not be such a great excuse. But we'll have a hearing on it. We'll figure it out. But the answer is we will have a hearing on it and we'll figure it out, often called a show cause hearing. So apparently the judge had a staff member investigate and learned what hospital the man was in, and he's allegedly in an emergency room. The judge ordered her bailiff to go and arrest that man, but was told the bailiff couldn't leave the courthouse. Bailiff is actually going to do his job and follow his instructions. That is what he's been told to do by people other than the judge. So she then declared that she'd go get the man herself. And if something happened to her, people would hear about it on the news, according to the complaint. So I'm going to go get that man myself, and it might be on the news. Okay, those, neither of those are things she should have said. She then left court and began driving to the emergency room with the defendant's attorney in the passenger seat. However, there was no prosecutor present in the vehicle. And this is such a level of absurdity, but we have to point this out, that in the court system, the judges are supposed to be neutral. They don't take sides. So before the judge, in a typical case, there's two sides, plaintiff and defendant, or the people and a defendant. The people are represented by a prosecutor. So if there's attorneys on each side, think of it as an attorney for the plaintiff, an attorney for the defendant, or attorney for the prosecutor, attorney for the defendant. So the judges are not supposed to meet with or hang out with or talk to one of the attorneys or parties to a case without the other side present. So as absurd as these facts are, there's another problem here, because technically speaking, if she's got the defense attorney in the car with her, she needs to have the prosecutor in there with her too. Except the prosecutor probably would have said, Your Honor, this isn't really exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because this ain't your job. Now, she eventually turned around after the defense attorney warned her that traveling to the hospital is a bad idea because she was supposed to be neutral. Oh? She then went back into court and issued a warrant for the defendant's arrest, which, by the way, is what most judges would have done. Most judges would have said, oh, they're not here, I'll issue a bench warrant. They'll get picked up, they'll get dragged back in here. The complaint also alleges she told the defendant in a child sexual assault case who had asked to delay his trial for a second time that he was playing games and should go to the prison and talk to them about all the games you can play. Go to the prison and talk to them about all the games you can play. And telling a defendant that he should go to the prison and talk to them kind of sounds like she's thinking that's where he's going to go, right? Or am I reading too much into that one? Don't know. When the defendant said her sarcasm was clear, she told him, good. I thought it would be. That's why I'm saying it to you that way, because I thought you would relate with that. Okay, again, I hate to be the one who points out the obvious, but it probably is worth noting that many courtrooms, and I assume this one is, but I could be wrong, but many courtrooms are recording everything that's said in court, whether it's being done with video cameras or whether it's being done by a stenographer or an audio recording system. I don't know. But we have her words put in quotes there that implies that there was a recording being made. All judges and all attorneys know that when they're on the record, everything they say is being recorded. Okay? So when the defendant said her sarcasm was clear, she could have said, what sarcasm? I wasn't using any sarcasm. You misunderstood me, my friend. I was speaking to you in a way I was trying to point out that this is a very serious situation. But instead, when he says that you're being sarcastic, she tells him, good. And then it was clear. I thought it would be. So I said earlier that she admitted that she got in her car and was driving to the hospital to go arrest somebody. She changed her mind at the last minute, apparently. But the fact is that, was she sarcastic with a defendant? Yes, she was. She admitted it on the record. When he accused her of being sarcastic, she didn't say, what are you talking about? Because I've seen people say to a judge, Your Honor, I think this or I think that, referring to how the judge is acting on the bench. I've seen a judge go, no, I'm not acting that way. And if somebody reads the record, it's going to go, you're doing this. No, I'm not. Now, if it's a video recording or an audio recording, the court can listen to it to see if there's a tone in somebody's voice and something, but my point simply is they accused her of doing something wacky, driving with the attorney towards the hospital to go arrest somebody. She said, yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. And then when a defendant said her sarcasm was clear, she said, good. And so the reason I'm pointing those things out is we talk about the temperament of a judge. That is the overall package of their intellect or emotions, how they behave, how they respond, how they act under pressure, how they take. Think about this. You go into a courtroom where a trial is being run. There's a jury, there's defendants, there's the plaintiff or the people or whatever, witnesses, a gallery full of observers, okay? The judge is running that courtroom. There's a bailiff, there's a court reporter, there's all kinds of stuff. The judge is running that courtroom. And it takes a certain amount of temperament just to have the management skills to run things properly. I've seen judges who didn't run their courtrooms properly because they weren't good at it yet, or they weren't good at it at all. Here is a judge who's doing things such as, your client's not here, let's go arrest him. And what's funniest about that to me, and this is going to sound odd, but what struck me was that most judges on the bench have a bailiff right here, or right here. Depends on how the courtroom's laid out. And so I've seen judges turn to the bailiff and say, can you go take care of something? And they say, yes, I can. It's what they do. And so the judge says, let's all jump in my car and go to the hospital and arrest somebody. It's strange because there are people that would do that. Now, apparently she asked if a bailiff could do it, and he said, that's not my job, I can't go do that. But that's simply because she's doing the process wrong. The process correctly done would be to issue a bench warrant. But my point is, when she says, I'm gonna go do this myself, she should realize immediately that she's doing something wrong. But then when somebody goes, your sarcasm is clear, she goes, good. And really what's going on there is she's losing control. She's too emotional. She shouldn't be like that on the bench. And I've actually seen a judge before in a very heated exchange say, we're going to take a break now. We'll be back in 5 minutes. And I'm reasonably certain that in those instances I'm thinking of, the judge did that because he or she wanted to step back out of the courtroom and calm down, bring things down again, come back out, and start mellow because he didn't want to lose it. And a judge should have the temperament to recognize when they are not doing their job properly. So here somebody is, she's being suspended for a brief period of time, but she did some bad things, and they're kind of goofy things. And so I hate to say this, but I suspect when you hear about her again, it'll get her into the news for one news cycle, and then she's gone. I bet we hear about her again. But we'll see. There's no way to prove that unless it happens again. So from the Associated Press, and a lot of people sent it to me, thank you very much. Todd Richmond wrote that. Wisconsin Supreme Court suspends judge who left court to arrest a hospitalized defendant. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. When faced with a large project, remember, you move a mountain one stone at a time.